timing. At the start of this meeting, I'm just going to remind everybody what the next meeting is for us. And I have that down for Thursday, May 19th at 8:30 a.m. So just FYI, our next Borough Board meeting is going to be Thursday, May 19th at 8:30. And given the news about open meetings, we will be virtual for that one as well. So just keep that in mind. We're going to be virtual meeting on May 19th. My name again is Tricia Shimamura. It's really nice to see all of you guys. We're going to go straight into roll call here because we have quite the agenda. So CB1.
Good morning. This is Tammy Meltzer for Community Board 1.
Great, thanks. CB2.
Janine Kiley. Good morning.
Morning. CB3.
Good morning, Paul Ragan. Sorry, I'm at work. Thank you.
Welcome, Paul. Thanks for being here. CB4.
Hi, good morning. Jessica Chait and for Jeffrey Leffran as well.
Hi, Jessica. Thanks for being here. CB5.
Good morning, Vicki Barbero, CB5.
Great, thanks. Vicki, CB6.
Good morning, Kyle Thide, present.
Hi, Child. Thank you. CB7.
Stephen Brown, in present.
Good morning, Stephen. CB8.
Russell Squire here.
Hi, Russell. Good morning.
Morning.
Congratulations on a board meeting last night. CB9.
Barry Weinberg here from CP9.
Great. Hi, Barry. Good morning. CB10.
Good morning, everyone. Cicely Harris.
Great. Good morning, Cecily. CB11. I don't see Xavier on just yet. And CB12. Okay, I don't see. We'll wait for 11 and 12. Hopefully they'll be able to join us. I also just want to thank the council members who are here this morning. And so I want to go, with everybody's permission, I'm going to switch our agenda up just slightly. Dan Grodnick, our commissioner for planning, is going to be coming in about 9 o'clock. But until that moment, we have a charter mandated duty to give a response to the city's preliminary budget, and we're going to do that today. We've asked our council members, and I see Councilmember Menon is here. I saw Councilmember Borough is here, and I think Keith Powers is here, and others. I think our Councilmember Gail Brewer is here. And I'm deeply appreciative of you all making time in your schedule to join us this morning. So with that, we're going to just move to the Borough Board budget response. Section 85, Part B, subsection 8, I believe, says that the Borough Board has a responsibility to submit a statement with regards to the executive, with regards to the budget, the preliminary budget. It's a statement, not a resolution. And it's supposed to be a summary of basically what you all have done on each individual board when it comes to district needs and general budget priorities. We have taken the district needs statements and budget summaries that you have all completed and submitted to our offices, and have found some similarities in those summaries, and have put that together in the drafted document that we all sent you. It says draft Manhattan Borough President budget response. In general, just not to read the whole thing to you, and hopefully you all can have reviewed that. We found that the vast majority of our boards have highlighted the needs for more tenant protections, affordable housing, parks and open space, a transportation system, and access to the public realm, healthcare access, including mental health access, and of course, sanitation. We also highlighted educational needs, accessibility improvements, community board support, which I'm sure that we are going to be talking about more later on, food insecurity and public restrooms. In general, we found that these are the topics that your district needs statements were highlighting. It was not just one borough, it was not just one community board, but it was several. And so what our plan is to do, which is very similar to what's been done in the past, is to take every single community board's budget response and district needs statements that you passed this year. We will submit this with this kind of summary document on top, highlighting some of the, again, overarching themes and high priority needs that you all have identified. And then that would be our submission for the city, to the city's preliminary budget. But that, I believe, does require a vote. So with that, I'm going to open up the floor to questions. And then if there are no questions, then we'll certainly entertain a motion to approve this statement, and we'll take our first Borough Board vote, both with our chairs and with our council members here. And thank you again for being here. Oh, quite a group this morning. That's not usual for our chairs.
Hooray!
Still taking in the coffee.
That's fine. And thank you for having us move. If there are no questions, and if everybody finds this document to be, to be reflective of, again, the priorities that you've, reflective of the priorities that you have all identified in your district needs statements and your budget responses, that's wonderful. And we can also entertain a motion to approve.
Trisha,
Yes.
one of the things that doesn't appear to be in the resolution is public safety.
Okay.
Although there is mention of expanding funding for the Be Heard program, which I am really happy to see made it in there. But funding for the violence interrupters programs, I think, is really important. I know in 9 and I suspect in 11, although I don't want to speak for them, if Xavier gets on, we may ask him about that. But that's something that we've put in our budget priorities for the past several years and would probably like to see in this resolution.
Sure, no problem. And we can certainly add that. In the past, what I've just been kind of learning from previous examples of this that I've seen, and normally there's a portion at the bottom that we can add, and I can specifically add language about the violence interrupters program. And thanks, Barry, for flagging that. Yes, Stephen.
Thank you. And I apologize if I'm missing a detail. And I did look through the housing. The only thing I'd add is that I don't know if I see, NYCHA just mentioned, but I think that we've raised, we've got quite a few NYCHA developments in our area. And I think just adding a sentence, or particularly just having them, and again, I apologize if I missed it, but I think having NYCHA mentioned in the challenges of the funding and the things that we need to do would be a positive thing in the document.
Most definitely. And if we miss that, then I feel like that's probably an oversight on our part. We will certainly add that language there.
Thank you.
That was certainly a similarity across the borough, the resos.
Great.
Seeing no other hands, I'm just going to repeat that there are 2 additions to this statement. We will add funding for violence interrupters, and just maybe align just about general the importance of public safety, and then we'll add a sentence or 2 about the funding, the necessity of properly funding NYCHA and supporting NYCHA housing as best as possible, and appropriately as possible. Anything?
If you don't mind, if I add one other, just the support of mental health, which we've talked about a little bit more this year. I don't know if it was in the healthcare access, but again, maybe just a line specifically about that would be a positive thing as well.
We certainly have, this was something that we did, I think it's the 3rd paragraph under healthcare access. We talk about a broken mental health system.
Then thank you, and apologies. I said
No problem.
scanned it, read it the best I could again, but if it's in here, that's great. Just wanted to make sure that that was flagged as well.
No problem. Thank you. Yes, Tammy.
Also under mental health, and a specific call out to mental health support services for the schools as we come out of the pandemic. The incredible need for help for the kids sets a good baseline for going forward.
Absolutely. Thank you. We can certainly add some language to that effect.
Thank you.
Barry, your hand is raised, but I think that you probably just left it raised from before.
Yep, sorry about that.
No problem. Yes, Russell.
In the public safety section, when you're talking about the sort of general need for public safety, can we talk specifically about the subway in light of the events this week and I think concerns that people have?
Yes, no problem.
Thanks.
Okay, I think we've gotten a couple comments, so I'm just going to review them one more time. And then if anybody else has any additional points, would be happy to take them or edits. So we are going to add language about public safety. We will reference some of the horrific things that have been happening on our subways thus far, kind of talking specifically about subway safety on our transit system. Also, proven programs like the violence interrupter program and others that have proven to be successful and that we'd like to see further funded. We will add language about the needs of NYCHA and specifically making sure that everybody has housing that is appropriate. And then we'll also add some language about not only just the need for mental health, which we have, but mental health, specifically mental health services in schools. Particularly if you haven't seen, like, this entire document really is through the lens of post-COVID, or as we continue down the recovery of COVID. So certainly, Tammy, thanks for that comment as well.
The only other thing, which I think, I apologize, I'm looking at this now, that I did not see in here. Was there anything about the link with parks, open space, and resiliency?
Parks and open space is at the top. I'm going to have to see if we should be using the word resiliency in there. If not, then we can certainly add that and add that as a tie. That is certainly one of our general talking points.
Yeah,
Yes. Most of our language is actually more focused on again the connection between the pandemic and access to open space. So we can certainly add language to the resiliency piece of the connection between parks, open space, and resiliency. Thank you, Tammy. Okay, folks. Do I have a?
So Cicely has been trying to unmute, but she had one other piece, which was funding to increase technology and internet access in disadvantaged communities and the elderly, which I think the pandemic has underscored a desperate need for.
You got it, Cecily?
Yes, like, thank you. Thank you, Barry.
I would tag to Cicely's point and include the schools in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Tammy, thanks.
Shelters.
Thank you, Cecily. That's great. We did not cover that one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, do I have a motion to approve the statement with these additions and edits?
I move to approve the Borough Board statement on the proposed budget with the emendations and statements suggested this morning.
Do I have a second?
I have a second.
Fantastic. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. With that, I believe that we'll do a roll call vote and then we'll move on from here. And thank you all so much for your comments on this. CB1. Great. I think Tammy, that was a yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. CB2. Janine. Great.
Sorry, somebody, apologies. Somebody walked in.
Okay, no problem. Thanks. CB3.
Yes.
Yes.
CB4.
Yes.
CB5.
Yes.
CB6.
In favor?
CB7,
Yes.
CB8,
Yes.
CB9,
Yes.
CB10.
Yes.
I don't know. Do we have anybody from CB11 here? Oh, yes.
I'm on, and I'm sorry I could not add any comments. I never got the link, so I wasn't able to be included in the process, but I supported the additions. So I'll vote yes.
Thank you, Xavier. It should have been sent to you, but we will make sure it's sent to you right after this, the revised version. Thank you.
Thank you.
CB12. Okay, we'll move to our council members. Councilmember Abreu.
Hello. Thank you, Tricia, for having me. I did want to say that we have some good news to share in District 7. I know, Barry, you asked about Be Heard last time. Be Heard is officially expanded in our district further north, and it's going to stay in the 30th, 26th, and the 33. So we're very excited for that. I mean, you had asked for an update there, and just wanted to take you on that. We have some good news with events. We've continued to conduct Green Card Wednesdays to offer immigration support. So if you know of folks who need immigration support, you can send them to our office on Wednesdays for Green Card Wednesdays. We continue to conduct the pantry that Mark Levine used to conduct every fourth Thursday of the month. We also have resources when it comes to masks and sanitizers, and we have also COVID tests that we plan on giving out in the coming weeks. And so I just wanted to update you on that. Regarding legislation today, I'm proposing a legislation today that would require it's a reporting bill that will require ACS to document the number of children who lost guardians, but also for ACS to come up with a plan. There are a lot of young kids, but also young adults who are either becoming caregivers themselves or who are entering the foster system. I'm sure they're in the thousands, but we're trying to formalize that. We also introduce fire bills.
How do you vote? Vote,
Rayo? Sorry,
vote?
Councilmember. I just need to. Thank you, Keith.
My bad. I thought it was something else. My apologies.
It's okay. Do you vote yes? Okay, thank you. We'll be there soon. Thank you.
I thought I had.
Thanks.
I love you, Keith.
I see Councilmember Botcher. I missed alphabetically Councilmember Ayala.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Brewer.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Menon.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Powers.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Rivera.
I vote aye.
Thank you so much. The statement passes. We will submit to everybody a finalized version of this. I will just say before this, we'll have everybody who is present, their names and titles on the front page, and we'll be hopefully sending this out in the next week or so. And I deeply appreciate all of the council members and all of our board chairs reviewing this. We very much appreciate you being here. I know it's a very busy morning. With that, and knowing that everybody has a busy morning, particularly our other elected officials in the room, we're gonna go quickly to any sort of reports that our council members would like to do. We just ask that just to keep everybody in mind, we have our commissioner who's going to be here, I think at 9:15. So would love to move through swiftly. Councilmember Rayo, I apologize for cutting you off.
Oh, no, you're fine. No,
Would you like to complete your
Keith
report?
had texted me before that. I just didn't read his text message. So no, I that was pretty much all the report. We are also doing some work on the fire safety bill and things like that with Oswald Feliz. We have some exciting bills coming up on interstate gun reporting as well that we are working closely with the speaker's office on. We're very excited for what's coming ahead. And I just want to let you know that we're very available and we're here to serve. So thank you so much for all that you're doing.
Great. Thank you so much. I will go to Councilmember Ayala. Do we have Councilmember Ayala with us?
I think I saw she just jumped off.
Okay, thanks, Jessica. I saw Councilmember Botcher. I think you also were able to join us now. Maybe not. That's okay. We'll move on to Councilmember Brewer.
Okay, couple of things. I think number one is, I think it's interesting today, Jessica Tisch, and it's going to be the new commissioner of sanitation. And Ryan Marola will be chief of staff, one of my former interns. So I'm very excited about that. And they're going to miss Mr. Grayson tremendously. He's getting a big positive walkout at 11:45. Sanitation is a big issue. I can say that we did a walkthrough on 72nd Street, cleaning it up with brooms and sanitation some weeks ago. And when I went there yesterday with the entire Manhattan chief and everybody from District 7, this is something to model. They've been going door to door to get the storekeepers to keep it clean. You could eat off the sidewalk and the gutter. So it was a good model, and they're willing to do it everywhere. So I think that, something to say, that's how we keep the streets clean. And it's a good example. I am running into some challenges with open streets, even though I love them. So I don't know if other people have the same challenge. I do think when you have an open street that's a large street, the DOT has to come through with some kind of a traffic agent, and then the signs that say take an alternate route. So I don't know if anybody else is having that issue, but I'd like to make sure we don't lose our open streets. We have a couple of bills today. One is with Carlina Rivera on warehousing, where hopefully it will pass legal muster to try to find a way to end some of this warehousing. Some of it goes to Albany, but we're going to try to do some here locally. Number two, with the borough president of Brooklyn, to add to the ULIP all those things that were never included, like education, environmental protection, parks and recreation, sanitation, transportation, police, and fire. As we know, that's not part of the EIF as we speak. And then just finally, in the district, we're open all the time. We've done several of the test kit give outs, and we are very interested in doing, just making sure that people get services. And then finally, on the budget, I think you'll hear from others, but the city council has their material. I hope that all the community boards have it. And then we'll start in May with new hearings. We'll take a good look at what you recommend and what we just voted on. I'm also interested in something. I'm meeting with the deputy mayor, Mr. Banks, soon to talk about the following. Every NYCHA development should have a community center that's open all the time, not the weekends, because
that's right. That's right.
So we want to be sure that happens. And those are just some of the issues that I'm working on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. We'll go to Councilmember Menon.
Thanks so much. I'll be brief. A couple things. I'm really proud of the fact that we announced a new composting site that we found, that we were able to partner with Asphalt Green. And this is absolutely imperative given the composting cuts at the moment to the budget, although the council is obviously pushing back on that. Legislatively, I introduced a couple weeks ago a bill that would create a one-stop portal for all agency permits for small businesses. So instead of dealing with 10 different agencies and 10 different permitting processes, this would consolidate it into one website, one app. I'm really excited. We now have a super majority of support by my colleagues on this bill, which is really exciting. Today, in terms of legislation, I'm introducing a bill that is supported by the borough president, which would mandate the COVID dashboard. So currently, the Department of Health is providing information, but it's not codified. So this would mandate it so that if there ever was a lapse in providing this information, they would be required to do so. So I'm introducing that today. In addition, I'm introducing a resolution along with Councilmember Abreu and Council Members De La Rosa and others that would call on the state to pass the HEAL Act, which is basically requires fair pricing for hospitals, because right now, and particularly we're seeing this in a hospital in my district, New York Presbyterian, that is charging over 300% of Medicare costs for people. This is a huge issue for labor, for 32BJ, for DC 37 and the UFT, but it's also a big issue for the city because the city's getting gouged in prices on this. And so if we're asking our agencies to take a 3% peg, why are we asking that when we have a clear cost savings on the table if we were to rein in hospital pricing? So just in the interest of time, I'll stop there. I've got other things to say, but I know we're on a tight time schedule. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Councilmember. We'll go to Councilmember Powers.
Thank you and good morning. I'll keep it quick, but nice to see everyone. I actually am introducing, I think, 5 or 6 bills today of all different sorts. One is actually related to our ULURP process in New York City, and actually take some applicants who once you sort of enter the process of beginning a rezoning or a land use process, you don't always have to go into the doing business database until you actually get further down the process. I've actually heard from people in the community about having more transparency on contributions and campaign finance at the time somebody is even starting that process. So I have a bill that I'm introducing with Chris Marte today that would start that process earlier and provide more transparency around our campaign finance system. I have one that actually would require all of our public libraries to serve as polling places as much as it's feasible. In Manhattan, we have plenty of libraries that could actually serve as polling places, and our library system actually does not offer many of them as polling places. It would solve a lot of our issues, especially when it comes to early voting. I have a bill that actually requires monthly reports related to our animal shelters in New York City. I'm introducing with Councilor Holden. And I have a few bills related to our criminal justice system, which is around how our Department of Corrections, it creates a number of prohibitions on how our Department of Corrections can detain or hold people that are here as non-citizens. We have found that the NYPD Department of Corrections often will hold people longer to create opportunities for them to cooperate with the federal agencies here. So we are actually have 3 bills I'm doing with Councilmember Rivera and Councilmember Hanif that will create further restrictions about how you can work or how they cannot work and cooperate with our ICE and our other federal agencies when it comes to immigration, which would would kind of uphold our status here as a sanctuary city, which we have talked about for obviously a very long time. And lastly, we are today doing an event over at JP Morgan's soon to be headquarters, which we did through a rezoning a few years ago, which would actually keep them in Midtown, part of the East Midtown rezoning. We're doing an event today with all the construction unions and jobs there because it was a major generator of jobs and will retain this major employer here in New York City in Midtown for a very long time, which is great news. So we're going to be over there today, and that was a project that went through the East Midtown rezoning. So exciting to see it get much further down the road here. So I'll leave it at that, but nice to see everyone and hope you're all staying safe and healthy.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Powers. And then we'll go to Councilmember Rivera.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I guess I'll give you my legislative update. I am introducing a few bills. One is for a legacy business registry along with Councilmember Julie Menon. She is the chair of the Small Business Committee, so we're very excited about that bill. And something that Gail Brewer alluded to, I am introducing a housing package, a legislative package, including the Community Opportunity to Purchase Act, which would give qualified affordable housing developer entities a first opportunity to submit an offer to purchase certain residential buildings when offered for sale. We also have what Gail mentioned as the warehousing bill. That bill would also mandate inspections. So it would mandate that HPD inspect no fewer than 15% of all registered vacant apartments for potential violations of state and local laws. And that is so we can get these vacant units back online to tackle the affordable housing crisis. And then 2 bills on conditions, so to preserve our affordable housing as well. One is emergency lead remediation. So that's inspection results with existing peeling lead-based paint in any common area of a building where a child under 6 resides. It would then categorize that hazard as a Class C violation, which would require immediate attention, as you know, or as you, in housing court, how they classify some of these violations are A, B, C, and those will determine how immediate something has to be addressed. And in this case, it would be absolutely right away, an emergency. And then air quality assessments, which would require HPD to memorialize a list of interior air pollutants and mandate remediation when found by the owner or landlord prior to offering a lease for signature. So we have that in addition to the other bills I'm working on with my colleagues. So it should be a very, very exciting day in the council. And I'm very thankful to all of you for being here. I was at CB6 last night. They're excited about a bill that I introduced last stated on alternatives to asphalt, which is just to try to find greener, more permeable alternatives to asphalt. So to do a pilot program here in New York City. It's never been done in a city this large, but it has been done in other cities, specifically on the West Coast. So thank you for the time. I'll stop there and I hope everyone has a great day.
Congrats, Carlina. It's exciting.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much, council member. With that, I think that is all of our council members who are on the call today. And thank you again for joining us. I hope that you can stick around for a little bit because we're very excited to introduce our guest speaker today, somebody who many of you may have known in the council before. I'm actually just going to first, though, introduce our 2 deputy borough presidents who are on, especially to say hello to our guest speaker. Thank you so much, Keisha Sutton-James and Aya Keefe, for joining us this morning. I know that everybody's really busy, but I appreciate both of our deputies being on the call today. Aya, I think you wanted to say a few words to introduce our speaker.
Thanks, Tricia. I'm always happy to say a few words about Dan Garodnick. Chair Garodnick, I think, needs very little introduction among anyone who's been watching local government in New York City in the past couple of decades. As you guys know, he's been one of the most prolific council members over the past 12 years, representing Council District 4. And I think most notably, and what makes it so exciting for us to now be working with him as the chair of DCP, that in addition to passing as many as 60 pieces of legislation while in the council, he also ushered some of the major rezoning in the city, in the East Midtown rezoning, and was an incredible partner on the preservation of Stuytown. As you guys know, recently, he's been the protector of our beloved Riverside Park as the CEO and the president of the Conservancy. You guys might remember him from such things as introducing the goats to Riverside Park. And if you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend doing that. And we are so thrilled to have you done with us today and to proactively connect with our council members and with our community boards. I think it really shows your understanding of what a major role all of these folks are playing in envisioning and shaping the built environment in Manhattan. So we're really excited to have you here. And without further ado, Dan, take it away.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that kind introduction. And you sort of revealed a secret that I haven't even shared within the department, which is, I have thoughts that goats somewhere in the zoning resolution would be an appropriate move. I haven't quite figured it out, but we're gonna cross that bridge another day. I'm really happy to be here with you. I'm a longtime friend to the borough president. Of course, we served together in the council. I understand he was so eager to see me today that he flew halfway across the world. So it is what it is. And to the council members who are here, Council Member Powers, Councilor Brewer, Menon, Abreu, Ayala, Rivera. I mean, we are in tremendously good hands in Manhattan in the city council. And I am lucky to call them friends, and I thank you for the opportunity to be with you today. By way of introduction, as you heard, I was appointed to be the chair of the City Planning Commission and the director of the Department of City Planning by Mayor Adams on February 7th. We also were joined today by somebody who is also no stranger to anybody in Manhattan, Edith Sue Chen, who was the Manhattan director of city planning for many years and now is the executive director of the entire Department of City Planning. And you're going to hear from her in a minute. I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I grew up on 20th Street and First Avenue in Manhattan. I still live in Manhattan today. As you heard, I was recently the CEO of Riverside Park Conservancy, where we work to protect 6 miles of public parkland and also advocated for park improvements citywide. And in my time in the city council, where I was Keith's predecessor, I had the privilege of working with many community boards, but specifically 5, 6, and 8, and just a block of 11. And it was a pleasure to have those relationships, and it's good to see so many of you. And I really wanted to come pay the Borough Board a visit because I've spent a lot of time in this particular Borough Board, and I know how important it is for cross-borough strategy and implementation, and I know how hard you all work. It is a hard job chairing community board, and it is a lot of time and energy, and you need to know that you have partners in the administration that are prepared to work with you. And I wanted to let you know that the Department of City Planning is eager to be that partner. We want to be collaborative. We want to be forward-looking. We want to be clear in our approach. We're working on our communications at the agency, from my own communications as the chair at the city planning hearings to every planner in the agency. We're working to use accessible and plain language, explain why we are doing what we're doing, why it matters. I fear that sometimes you start talking about R8 with a C64 overlay, people's eyes start glazing over, and we understand that because it's really complicated. And for these issues, which are complicated for community boards, they're complicated for planners, they're complicated for everybody in the world. We want to make sure that we are doing our role in explaining any principles at play and anything that we're trying to do. I think it will make everybody's lives easier. It may not be, it's not the answer to all problems, of course, but helping everybody get on the same page on understanding what we're talking about, I think, is a really big deal. And as you know, we are doing really important work at the agency, from population and demographics to looking at economic trends, to transportation trends, regional planning, urban design, and of course, community boards frequently see us in the context of zoning. So we're going to take a step back and think about how we can help New Yorkers understand the importance of our work and to connect it to the bigger picture. So we appreciate the partnership we have with you. And I want you to know that on the various applications that come before us, we're going to take the views of community boards seriously. So if you send us recommendations that are viable and well considered, we are going to amplify them in the process. So do know that. We are also working to bring a new approach to capital investment, our capital budget, and we want that to be led by good planning principles. As you all know, too often our city agencies are working in silos. The Parks Department needs this, the Department of Transportation needs that, Department of Environmental Protection needs something else, and they all go to OMB for their various and very specific and critically important needs. But the mayor does not want his agencies working in silos, And we are working to try to cross over our agency work and to find ways to promote catalytic investments across agencies and find areas that have seen historic disinvestment, opportunities for jobs, housing, and growth, and make real investments in ways that we have not done before. If you saw that the mayor announced his blueprint for economic recovery, there was a fund called the Seed Fund, and that is where we are going to look to initiate this effort. We're going to partner with neighborhoods for bigger opportunities, not just where there's a rezoning. It's an important point. And we are going to invest in our communities where they need city capital investment and where we see opportunities to make a big impact. That's an important way for us to do planning, and it is not it's not zoning, it is planning. Zoning is critically important tool. It's a tool. It is something we can do. It is something we will do, but we're going to be looking to have the conversation with you all as to what neighborhoods need, what communities are looking to do, who wants to be a partner to our agency. We recognize we don't operate in a silo either, city planning. We can't do anything unilaterally. Well, there's very few things we can do unilaterally. There's a few chair certifications that I can sign here and there, but there's very little that we can do on our own. We need the process. We need the community boards and the borough presidents. We need the city council. We don't operate in a silo, and we are fully cognizant of that. And so we want to work with all of you. I also want to note that earlier this week, we launched our Equitable Development Data Explorer. It's a tool that will help bring transparency to some of the very difficult conversations about affordability, gentrification, and displacement. I encourage you to check that out. And when we think about big picture changes for zoning, we are looking to make amendments to the zoning resolution that will promote economic development, make the city more sustainable, and also to promote housing. And I'll give you a couple of examples. For economic development, at the end of last year, you all recall that city planning removed some outdated zoning barriers to opening gyms and spas and helping these industries recover more quickly from the pandemic. And this is something that that was passed and came through the city council. We are now exploring ways to reduce red tape for many other types of businesses that provide good jobs, like industrial. We think that there are smart fixes that we can make to our zoning to make it work better for all New Yorkers, and we look forward to coming back to you with some details on that. On our zero carbon goals, we want to change the zoning rules to promote sustainability. That includes reducing limitations on solar panels, allowing for battery storage, and you might not be surprised to know that the 1961 zoning resolution makes no mention of electric vehicles. It only references gas stations and cars. So, you know, we have to amend the zoning resolution to not only accommodate, but to encourage the sorts of initiatives that will help us get to zero carbon in New York City. You all know that on the subject of resiliency, at the end of 2021, we released a comprehensive waterfront plan, you know, for a borough board on an island. This is an important one. It offers a vision for the next 10 years of New York City's waterfront, including climate justice, job creation, transit, and how they all work together. And if you haven't seen it yet, I'd encourage you to check it out at waterfrontplan.nyc. This is not the only citywide resiliency initiative that the agency has done recently. City planning last year put forth and got approved zoning for coastal flood resiliency, which makes it easier for homeowners, business owners, and others to design resilient buildings. It will lead, we believe, to less damage and quicker repairs from flooding events, and it will also lower flood insurance costs. So the next step of this work to protect our neighborhoods from the impact of climate change and to build homes and generate good jobs, you will see a lot of that in the mayor's blueprint for economic recovery. This is a 5-borough economic development plan that is looking to make sure that our economy and the infrastructure that supports it is flexible, resilient, inclusive, and innovative as we are in this very moment, this very difficult, and I would say rather uncertain moment, where I think that the principles that should be guiding us should be flexibility here to allow growth and evolution and change. Part of that includes expanding workforce development resources and job opportunities closer to where people live. More to come on that, but we're never going to retreat on our central business districts. They're critically important. We want people to get back to the office. It's important for our local economy. It's important for our hourly workers who work in, say, Midtown Manhattan and rely on, office workers to come and spend money on a daily basis. So these are critically important principles, and they are present and things that we need to engage in right now. So in conclusion, let me just say we want to be supportive of this borough board and all of the members within it as much as we possibly can. Our Manhattan office is planning to be in touch with each community board to hear more about your priorities and plan together. We really look forward to a productive relationship. I know we will have a productive relationship. I will not have it any other way. And so I appreciate your having me this morning. And I want to give Edith Suchen, the executive director, a minute to say hello as well. Edith, let me turn it to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dan. And by the way, I fully support your GOAT plan for DCP. And as your executive director, I commit to helping you implement that. Hi, Manhattan Borough Board. I'm really excited to be here. I've worked with so many of you on projects throughout the borough, really important projects of all shapes and sizes and scale throughout the borough. And I really just want to open to say hello. So I will be very brief. I am now the executive director, so my attention goes to all 5 boroughs. But Manhattan will always be my first and true love. I started out in the Manhattan office over 20 years ago at the most entry-level position and eventually became director. And in all of that time, I got to work, again, with so many of you on so many important projects. So I will, I'm really excited to continue to work with you in my new capacity. And that's it. I'm just here to say hello and thank you to you all for all your incredible service. Thanks.
Thanks, Edith. And Keisha, we're happy to take any questions anybody has, or we'll follow your lead here.
Trisha, I'll let you monitor this piece of the conversation.
Great. I think we have a number of questions, and thank you both for being here today. We'll start with Barry Weinberg.
Thank you very much for being here, Commissioner and Executive Director Suchen. It's very exciting to hear a vision for DCP that kind of moves away from zoning only to real true community and city planning. So we look forward to working with you on that. I would be remiss though if I did not mention our previous experience with DCP, particularly over the past 8 years, has been one that is monolithically defined by the number of affordable units created with each rezoning. It's pretty much been a one-track song with us, plus the citywide text amendments. In Community Board 9, we have been attempting to rezone Morningside Heights, which retains its 1964 original zoning designations. And when rebuffed by DCP about doing a neighborhood rezoning, we took it upon ourselves to actually propose our own rezoning with the help of the City Council Land Use Division and then Councilmember Mark Levine and Borough President Brewer. So I would love to have a chance to sit down with you and just kind of discuss the road that led us there and also the possibilities of really truly community-led rezonings, as I think this will be the first large-scale rezoning that will be coming from a community as opposed to either a development group or a large entity like Columbia University or the DCP itself.
Great, thanks, Barry. And I appreciate the point about the past and your perception of what was coming to you. And we are eager to try to broaden that perspective, as you heard from my comments. On Morningside Heights, kudos to you all for taking on something very significant and to do it as public actors. That is no small, it's no small task to take that on, and the level of attention and detail and work that has gone into that, I think is really admirable. And so I am now, even though I was not involved in it, Barry, I'm well aware of the history and the process that brings us to this moment. And I want you to know that city planning respects the fact that there is a community-led plan that has borough president, council member support associated with it, and community board. So we're going to take that extremely seriously. I will note that we also, it's not necessarily going to be we just simply accept all principles just because they're coming out of the public realm. We will take it all really seriously, but we want to make sure that the plan is one that sets good precedent, that respects city policy, that enables growth, and we're gonna have that conversation. We're gonna do it well and respectfully, and we are looking at it right now in detail. So I just want you to know, I get it, and we understand there's a lot of work that has gone into this, and we look forward to engaging with you further.
Looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thanks, Barry. Well, next we'll go to Xavier Santiago.
Good morning, and thank you very much for being here. Appreciate your time. Historically, the Upper Manhattan districts have been disenfranchised and disinvested, as well as our brothers and sisters in the South Bronx from redlining and the like. And I wanted to ask point blank, what percentage of focus will there be placed upon our upper community districts? And without any disrespect, because to our fellow community board chairs, but we've been advocating for a lot of the same policies that have been applied to Lower Manhattan. We'd like to know what focus would be placed.
We look at everything that we're going to do through an equity lens. We know that there are neighborhoods that have historically seen less, gotten less. This was a case that I was regularly making in Riverside Park. There was a half of the park to the north that historically had gotten fewer resources than the half of the park to the south. And so I'm keenly aware of that dynamic. I can't put a percentage. I know you've asked about a percentage. I cannot and wouldn't, but do know that we are focused on equity. We're focused on balance. We understand that there are communities that have seen less engagement and less interest from the city over decades of time, and that is a priority for us to address and to correct.
Great, thank you. And I would definitely apply a lens at examining 125th Street corridor, which we share with 10 and 9, especially with the nexus at Lexington and 125th and the impact there. So
wait, don't go anywhere. Let me ask you a question about that. What would you like to see on 125th Street?
I'd like you to join us for a walk, and then we'll
listen. I'll walk with you anytime. But but tell me though, what you give me 30 seconds on your vision. Like, what would you?
Well, the vision is an evolving one, but we have the Second Avenue subway coming forward. for phase two. And I'm very appreciative to our colleagues in CB8 who are advising us on their lessons learned. We also have the issues that are dealing with both state and city with the safe injection site that's there, where we have taken a position calling for a moratorium of no new or additional services, which was not listened to. It's created an absolute a draw for certain elements that have caused an uptick in crime instead of having the improvement of the district, which is what we'd like to all see. And I'll be delivering in my report later the walkthroughs I've been dealing with both the commercial residents and our local residents. So we'd like to see that advance forward without disenfranchising longtime residents. So taking a very inclusive and equitable approach. So thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you. We'll next go to Janine Kiley.
Hi, good morning. I had two questions. One is when I feel like there's a move to wait to make community improvements in the past when there's a rezoning versus doing what's needed for the community, or repackaging things that are already happening into points of agreement. And I guess I would just like to understand what the purpose of these points of agreement is, how legally binding they are, and where they stand. You know, like it seems a lot of smoke and mirrors, and I know you're the new commissioner. So I just would like to understand that better.
Right. So rezonings are obviously complicated processes, and there are frequently interests that people articulate at the end of the line as ways to help make it politically more viable to be able to approve a rezoning. And at the end of the line, there's a limit as to what one can bake in to the rules, because you're at the end of the line. So what can you actually do to lock in commitments that agencies are making or developers are making or whatever? That's where you get these things. Now, to your point, they're not altogether useful. They don't solve all the problems. They certainly don't fund, if people have fundamental concerns about a project, they may not solve that. It's just that there are a few things that remain when you're at the end of the line, and I think that's why you see them. Now, we in this administration, what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to have good, robust community engagement, not only at the end, but throughout the process, certainly on rezonings that are led by the city, and even in private applications where we don't have a right to demand that a private actor go to the community board and start that conversation early. We're going to encourage them to do that. Because we know that it will be better for all of us if that engagement happens on an advanced timetable. And we are not looking to just make investments in connection with rezonings, as I noted before. Like, we actually are looking to make investments in areas which need them, and where it will prompt good things to happen. It has a delightful simplicity to it. It is what the city should be doing. And we want to advance that. And in city planning, we certainly are going to advance that. And the mayor wants us to advance that. More to come on that. Obviously, when we get to, complicated rezonings, which, people tune into in the final days of a ULURP, when they're at the city council, and, there's a need to try to have somebody make a commitment. That's where letters are written. That's where points of agreements exist. And you are absolutely correct, but there are a few tools at that stage of the game. And that's why I think you see them, but we want to move away from that. And we certainly agree with your
Well,
position.
good. I'd like to see the community boards involved in the most recent rezoning in our community. Despite numerous emails, texts, and calls, we never even met with the local council member on the rezoning, and were never consulted about any of the points of agreement, many of which were previously promised or were in other community boards.
Okay. So all I would ask of you is just give us a fresh start,
Yes,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Because I understand that, and that we don't want you, we would not want you to say that about us. I feel that very sincerely. I say that very sincerely. We're not going to, as the mayor says, we're perfectly imperfect, but like, we're going to try. Like, we really do want to be accessible, and we do want to be available to engage, and recognizing there's not going to ever be total agreement on all things, but we want to be there. We want to be supportive of process, and we want to recognize the critical role that community boards play here.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Edith again. Hi, Janine. I also want to flag for everyone, although I'm sure you all know about it, but there is a rezoning commitments tracker that is available to all. It's at the mayor's office, but it's a website. It's a very user-friendly website. And it is actually, it lists every single commitment from the city, every single agency that's supposed to be delivering these commitments, and it's everything from housing to open space to schools to, you know, street improvements. And it provides status updates on each commitment, detailed status updates. So we believe it's a very open, transparent document to show the status of delivery of items that were committed in the points of agreement. So I can send you the link if you'd like after this meeting, but it is
we've checked it
maintained
out.
by the mayor's office. Okay, good, great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Tammy Milser and then Stephen Brown.
So I want to say thank you very much. It's really encouraging to hear this as a start for city planning. It's
Tammy, we can't hear you.
We heard the nice stuff you said, but then you muted out.
Sorry about that.
Okay, we got you now.
My audio is a little funky. Okay, I want to say thank you first. That is the most important and encouraging words I've heard in quite some time. And I know community boards can be tough, and I think part and parcel to that is because we have been holistically ignored in our feedback. And I hear what you're saying, viable and well considered. I think the work of the community boards, as long as I've been here, has been very well considered and very viable. And we have not had a partner on the city side in some time in terms of having a dialogue. It just can't be a one-way discussion. If it's not viable, we want to know why and how and what options there are to us. And most of us are volunteers in the chair roles and rely on the office teams, which, as you well know, are critically underfunded. So the opportunities to have a dialogue that would go back and forth with you is really encouraging. I can't say enough adjectives if that is the direction that you are taking this for the next few years, of how appreciated that would be from the community side, because the reality is the best planning is done when you talk to the people on the ground first, not top down, bottom up. And that's just a worldwide phenomenon, well known by many. So the fact that New York City doesn't do it as well is sad, but it is doable, and absolutely. So we are thrilled to hear that. I didn't hear when you talked about your waterfront plan, and I put it in the chat a bit. One of the things that we hear a lot about that is critically missing all over the city is really in the densest neighborhoods, we need open space, both active and passive. You cannot get on a ferry at lunch to go out to Governor's Island during your lunch hour. We need that waterfront, open, active, and passive space all around our city. It is so hard for people to really understand that Manhattan is an island because we don't treat ourselves as an island with access to the water, a connection to it. People just look at us as a dense city. With the waterfront plan, we have an opportunity to really change that. And yes, transportation by water is amazing as long as it's resilient. I wouldn't understand why we'd be building more diesel opportunities approved through city planning versus looking at embedding green sustainable, so we can access the water, so we can have healthy open spaces right next to. No one wants to sit next to a diesel ferry in a playground. An electric would be significantly nicer, but we need a city that's really looking forward for the next 100 years, not the next 5. So I appreciate everything. Yes, like Janine, we have many things we'd love to chat with you about that have passed within the last year that don't seem to actually take into consideration any of the well-considered and viable feedback that we have provided. And I know you can't redo the past, but if there are openings in anything, we'd be delighted to chat with you about it.
Great, thank you. The only thing I might add here is, and I know that there may be difference of opinion on what is viable and what is not viable, and and again, not speaking to any one example, only as somebody who has spent a lot of time in and around community boards and city council meetings and now at city planning. If you would like our planners who are there for your community board to help think through recommendations, to help give feedback on recommendations, to help assess viability, we'll do that. You may not agree with it all the time, but that's okay. I think that's okay. To me, that's okay. As long as, if you want that level of engagement, we'll do that. And so do know that that is something that is an option. On the waterfront plan, yes, we do want active, passive. We want all of the things that connect people better to their waterfront. The reason it is a plan is that it is, it's long-term. It's something which it's direction for us. Not all sites are available to us. They're principles that we are following as we go forth and grow the city. So yes, we're going to be looking for the opportunities that you describe in Manhattan and everywhere, frankly, and try to give people better access to the waterfront. We understand how important that is.
Very, very much.
Thank you. And we'll definitely do our final question from Vicki, because but we'll do Stephen Brown next, and then Vicki Barbaro.
Thank you. And that's Stephen Brown, Community Board 7. I'll be brief and just say that I back many of the sentiments in terms of collaboration. So appreciate the conversations and look forward to it. And I would just flag in our area one large project of concern, which is the ABC campus, in which Silverstein has recently sold to Extel. It's a large project. And I'll just leave that we have large concerns and needs, and for lack of a better word, and just point out that we have actually passed a resolution in which we have partnered with Landmark West in hopes of extending some zoning into that area. And I'd like to follow up, but I think that's, again, I would like to just, if we're going to start a conversation, that's a project for us that's extremely important, and would like to start there. And I'll just leave it at that for brevity's sake, but I think that's an area that we would like to dig in as soon as possible regarding concerns of, the traditional, if you get something going too far, it's tough to reverse it. But our community across the board, huge concerns about that area and all the development that's going to happen there.
That's Stephen, that's 66th and West End. Is that the site?
No, I mean, meaning that the ABC building is many sites. That's one site in the area that's a smaller campus, but the selling of the ABC buildings over between Columbus and Central Park West is the entire ABC.
Oh, that bill. Oh, I see. There's something else. There was something else just being discussed over between 66th and 65 on West End. That's a different. You're talking about the whole campus, the big one.
The whole campus, and that building over there is a part of that campus, but it's a smaller building, and that's kind of started. And everything's a concern, of course, but I think we're okay with that one. That larger building, whole area is being developed. There's a lot of question marks. We have huge concerns, and it's got a lot of moving parts. And I would probably say the number one concern of development in our area right now. And things are happening. The Silverstein have sold it to Extel. We're concerned about what that means. And again, I can follow up, but earlier in the year, there is a zone in Broadway over there that if you extend in would help us out. We passed that. I don't want to take everyone's time to get into it, but that's the building we're concerned about. It's a major project for us, lots of ramifications for the community in many ways. And I think to engage with us, it would be a starting point to talk about and a good work case and how we can work together.
Excellent. But I don't want to take everybody's time either, but I have one question. And forgive me for not knowing this off the bat. Have they come up with the specific proposal for that site yet? The private actors, are they looking to do as of right development? Are they coming to are they looking for special permits? Are they looking for rezonings or anything like that? Or do they have a concept of an as of right development, and you are suggesting that we change rules in advance of that? I just want to know what we're dealing with here.
To the best of my knowledge, they haven't started the plans, but I think that most of it is as of right. So there's a concern. There may be some limitations in the area, but there is, I believe it's the majority of it. And sorry if I become wrong, but is it as of right?
Okay, well, we'll figure out. What I would suggest is you have our CB7 planner. You know who that is, right? You know the person at City Planning who's supposed to be your person. If you don't,
no.
Okay, Edith.
No, but I do not know.
That's okay. We're gonna go ahead, Edith.
Team leader is Sylvia Lee, and your planner is Ariel B. We'll make sure they're in touch with you.
Yeah,
relay the message later today.
Happy to have my, if they want to reach out, I think we'd be eager to set something up, sooner rather than later, start the process.
We will do it. We'll have them reach out to you and start that conversation. And, to the point that Tammy was making before, this is a core function for the agency. So when you have a question like this as to, hey, we're concerned about this, it's a big block site, we don't know what our options are, we want to explore opportunities like that, that's where we should run over and give all the possible guidance that we can, and we're going to do that. So
great, and I want to thank you for your past work as I look out my window to Riverside Park. So
all right, love it.
And finally, Vicky Barbaro from CB5.
Hey, Vicky.
Good morning, Dan Garodnick.
Good to see you.
I cannot tell you how excited I am, how excited CB5 is. I have so much that I want to say, but I'll really try and save a lot of it on actual topics. But I really wanted to echo what everyone else is saying, but more from the standpoint of having had the opportunity to work with you on what was at that time the most important land use issue to come before Board 5. It's been outranked now by Penn Station, but we probably worked with you more closely than most of the community boards because it was such a long process for so many years. And I just want to say to everyone that the things that you have said and the promises that you're giving us in terms of involving the community and involving our input, even though it may not always be agreed to, I can vouch for the fact that you are a man of your word. Everything that we expected of someone to represent us and help us through that ordeal was above and beyond. And I can't tell you how excited I think we made the announcement of your appointment at one of our meetings, and we actually had people clap because everyone knows you to be the person you are, the person that you have shown us to be in the past. And the only comment that I can make, I really wanted to just let everybody know that we can trust you. I trust you, all of CB5 does. I'm sure CB6 had the same relationship with you on East Midtown rezoning. I only wish that the fact that you're in the position you are now would be the one time for CB5 to have been able to work with you and trust someone in that capacity as we trust you on the Penn Station proposal. And as you know, it's not ULURP, it's not going through the city. I wish there were a way that we could have that. We're fighting it, as you know. And I wish there were a way that city planning would be involved in that. We haven't given up, but if there was any hope for the future, it would be not only to have that go through ULURP, but to have you working with us on that. So I just want to thank you. And again, what you say is what you do. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Vicki. You absolutely made my day. I really appreciate that.
Getting the seal of approval from Vicki is pretty much the best way you can end this. So there's nothing better than we can do to send you off. So thank you, Dan, for being here, and Edith. We really appreciate it.
Thank you all. See you soon. Looking forward to working with you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, folks, we're going to move right along. As you heard, unfortunately, our borough president couldn't be here with us today and is in the midst of traveling. But I did want to just give a shout out to our other deputy borough president, Keisha Sutton James, who I wanted to ask if she might be able to just share a few words about one of the initiatives that the borough president has continuously been working on. He may have mentioned it in his comments at recent community board meetings, but Keisha's really been involved in the implementation of kind of staying safe through COVID. So I wanted to give her an opportunity just to talk a little bit about what's going on there.
Thanks, Trisha. Morning again, everyone. Many of you know I was last night with you, Russell. I was actually on two boards last night. I'm talking about the Borough President Levine's initiative, Stay Healthy, Stay Safe, Stay Open. We, as you probably already know, we're really pushing for the city, frankly, to do a number of things. Really push hard to get everybody boosted. Ensure that there are masks in all buildings. Really amp up testing, particularly in communities where there is where people are, the hardest hit communities. There's more detail there in terms of testing runoff water, et cetera, et cetera. But just so that we can have a better sense, obviously, of where the city is with regard to COVID, and really understand. I felt badly the other day because my daughter tested. Actually, both of them have tested positive in the last couple of weeks, but we only did it, and this is a perfect example. We did an at-home test, and the school said no, she doesn't need to do a PCR, and she was like, I don't want to do a PCR. But if we don't do the PCRs, the city doesn't actually know whether or not that there's been this case, and so there's we have to estimate essentially. Without people doing PCRs, we have to estimate what the true number is because we're so undercounted. So we're working on this initiative. One of the things that we've done is last week, the borough president did 2 hits where we were giving out COVID safety kits that included sanitizer, several masks, several test kits, thermometers, et cetera, because that's truly what people need, and not just masks, high quality masks. And so we've been giving those out. We have several more, many more that are being planned all over the borough. So we will be hitting your communities in the coming weeks. We're mapping it out right now. I'm really focusing on most certainly NYCHA housing, senior centers, and several other community organizations. So we will be in touch soon, and so that we'll let you guys know where we're giving out COVID safety kits, and also test kits in particular, because we will, I think, not be able to do, we have, I think 17,000 kits that we're getting out, but I don't know that we'll be able to do 17,000 test kits that we're giving out. I don't know that we'll be able to do 17,000 safety kits. So we will be doing, 2 different types of giveaways, and also planning one for those in Upper Manhattan. We'll also be planning events at our Northern Manhattan office as well. Did I say that for those in Manhattan? For those in Northern Manhattan, we're all in Manhattan, thank God. that we're in the right place. Sorry, folks. With that, I think that's it for me. Trisha.
Thanks so much, Keisha. I forgot to mention this, but I just also want to give a shout out to Lizette Chaparro from our Director of Land Use, particularly with DCP here. You all probably know Lizette, or at least somebody on her team. So certainly as you have questions about either a specific site or a site that you don't know what's going on at, we were just talking about this the other day, but if there's a lot of land that is sitting empty or being used by an agency for parking or any other, reason, and you think that maybe that's a good spot for housing, or have any other questions really along the way, Lizette and her team have just been nothing short of amazing. So thank you for being here, and certainly I'm sure that everybody will know her team very well. I just wanted to, before we go on to our chair reports, I wanted to just take one more moment to talk about open meetings, which I believe I've spoken to all of you about, or your district manager, or both of you about over the last few days. Just to reiterate the communication that's already been out there, you know that when the state passed its budget last Friday, they included language on open meetings. You all know that at this point that the language allows for hybrid meetings, not virtual meetings, that it would require, they define hybrid as when you have a quorum of board members in person. But once you hit that quorum, everybody else, board members of the public, anybody else there can participate virtually. You know that all of this, it has a 60-day window before it actually begins. So that does mean that everything, as we understand it, everything between now and June 8th can remain virtual. And that during that time, we highly recommend that the boards start to think about and must pass a resolution on exactly and specifically what you plan on doing moving forward. We are, I want to thank Adele Bartlett and Chris Carroll from our office for really helping me understand this better, and helping helping us really try to watch this very closely. We're going to continue to monitor this, and I know that everybody has questions about it, but I wanted to just open up the floor briefly. If anybody had any additional questions that they wanted to get answered right away, I'm more than happy to take those questions now, but also we'll also be calling you individually, I'm sure, over the coming weeks to check in with you guys. Yes, and Barry, to clarify, we can do virtual meetings until June 8th. Yes, that is our understanding, that you can do virtual meetings for everything until June 8th. Stephen, was that your question?
Yep. I was pretty sure it was. I just wanted to be 100% sure. So again, we can continue as is till June 8th, and everything we need to do is between now and June 8th.
Yes, I will just add that, one thing that I think I spoke to most of you about is that in the language that was passed, they mentioned that if there's a state of emergency in effect, either on the city or state side, that it allows for the kind of triggers the full virtual sort of situation for everybody. We're still trying to find out more information about what that means on the city side. And I know, I don't think many people know what's going on that level yet, but we are, as soon as we get more clarity on what that is and the status of what the city's kind of executive orders are when it comes to this stuff, you can rest assured that we'll also be relaying that to you guys. And I know that some of your district managers have been just really good at, asking the right questions and getting those to us. So we're working on getting the answers, and just know that this is a daily, if not hourly, conversation in our office about the specifics. Yeah, Tammy.
So first, thank you so much for the advocacy work by the borough president. I mean, this is just really fantastic news for 1,000 different up and down reasons. One of the things I did want to point out beyond borough board and our own community boards, that I have concerns on where we are with legislation and how it works for the Department of Education, and whatever lift that our council team can do with the borough president for the DOE. They have very different rules when it comes to PTA meetings and PA meetings based on DOE, which, being a parent in two different schools and being told in the beginning of the pandemic, after we got the community board up and running and rolling in under 2 weeks, to be told as part of a PTA that you cannot host meetings at all because you are not allowed to physically be in the building and virtual won't work. There's a whole litany of things that, since the borough president's office has been so amazing in advocating for this, I'm asking if we can either discuss this as a borough board, whether we should do it as individual resolutions, but I do think that we need to bring the Department of Education along with us into the next century of trying to figure out, with whatever checks and balances they need for quorum, like we have discussed here, to be able to have the PTAs and the PAs support the schools on a consistent manner and not be shut down like has been. So that is my one ask and request on this, other than my gratitude for all the advocacy and work that's been done thus far. So thank you.
Sure. Chris, I don't know if you want to mention, if you want to respond to that at all, if we want to, otherwise Tammy, I think we can certainly follow up. We have somebody who, one of our policy folks who works specifically on education. I think it'd probably be best to bring him in, but Chris, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, thanks. It's a really good question. It's certainly the case for CECs. It's a question, and for kind of all the parent groups. So honestly, I actually think that this is actually going to probably include them. We have to confirm that, because I think actually the CECs and PEP will be meeting remotely. So I'm not sure about PTAs, but I think there is a question about that. So we'll get a little more information to figure out what works.
I'd appreciate it, because I think Janine, Kylie, and I can speak to what happened in the beginning of the pandemic. We've both been involved with the schools and how difficult that was. And I was told specifically by DOE that they run differently under DOE guidelines. So anything you could do would be really great.
Yep, we'll get a couple answers for you if we can.
Thanks. And then Xavier.
Thank you very much for all the time you've invested into informing us with this uncharted territory. What are the expiry dates of the mayor's executive order or emergency order? Excuse me.
That's the big question. I wish you could see Chris smiling there, because I think he's been working on this nonstop since Friday or Thursday, depending on what time of day you count as the next day. So we're working on this right now, trying to figure this out. We're communicating with City Hall on trying to better understand this. I don't know, Chris, if you want to say anything else to it. As soon as I know, I'll share it with you. I know that most of the boards have asked more specifically about what's going on the city side, because that now impacts us. But I don't have any answers on that yet.
Okay. No, thank you. I was just curious about that. But thank you for all the advocacy. We appreciate it.
As soon as I know, you'll know.
Cheers.
Yeah, Vicky.
Yeah, Tricia, I just want to make sure we'll be working, obviously, all the boards will be working on procedures and how we plan, how we would like to proceed. Is Borough Board expecting anything from us? And if so, is there a date? Do you think that we'll be doing anything through the Borough Board collectively? How do you think it'll play out?
It's a really good question. So in the last few months we've met, I've been asking you, and also asking your district managers at Borough Service Cabinet, to send me any resolutions that you've had on hybrid or virtual, because we were making the very strong argument that we should have, that boards should have as much flexibility as possible. And we frankly were arguing for more flexibility than even what was given. We believe that boards should be able to meet virtually. And if 2 years from now, when God willing that we're in a better place overall with COVID, if there's a huge snowstorm and you decide that it's better to be virtual for that entire meeting, then you should have the flexibility to do that. And for all those other reasons. So we had asked everybody to give us their I have actually, if you come visit me on the 19th floor of 1 Center Street, I have a pile of resolutions here that I've been studying when you all have passed them. I was watching CB7 do their discussion last week. I was watching CB9 hold an exceptional hybrid meeting. last month. I was I've been watching this very closely. I think that now you're going to have to look at those resolutions. I have a feeling that you may have to pass new resolutions that are more, Adele's nodding her head, so I'm guessing that's a yes. I have a feeling that you all may have to pass new resolutions that are going to be specific for how you define like acceptable absences, how you're going to go about ensuring that you have quorum at those meetings. It will be more specific. So I highly encourage you not to just, and nobody does in this group, but don't just slide through the next 60 days, use them to get your house in order a bit and make sure that everybody's set up, and keep us posted. We were talking about maybe drafting some sample language if needed, or some pointers if you all need them, for that could be helpful. And I see some people giving our thumbs up. So we can work on that in the next week or so, trying to give you guys some guidelines for how you should discuss this. And I know, and then, please do share with me those resos. This borough board passed a resolution in support of, I believe the language was hybrid, in support of hybrid in December. So I don't know if it's necessary to pass another one, but I do think it would be very helpful for us to be able to share the practices across boards, just because everybody's trying to figure this out, and your rules and maybe different or maybe very similar to somebody else's. So I will certainly commit to sharing others' resolutions and best practices to the other boards, just to make sure that we're sure that if it's, and we can certainly discuss this at the next borough board as well. But I will certainly commit to sharing those resolutions with you all so that you guys can, you borrow each other's language and do what's best.
Thanks, Tricia.
Yeah, of course. I think it's Xavier. Xavier, did you have another question?
Sorry, that was an old hand. I'll lower it.
Okay, no problem. Kyle and then Stephen.
Yeah, no, just wanted to echo the sentiments that you said before, that this most recent budget wasn't exactly what we were looking for. So obviously CB6 has had discussions on this for over a year now about making sure that not just the public has, accessibility and transparency, but board members as well. So to have a hybrid model that still requires board members to go in, I think is very short-sighted and doesn't actually address the issue. Our board has talked extensively about this, to the point that we, had a discussion last month before the state of emergency actually was even passed, that we would want to continue to remain virtual through August anyway. I mean, one of the big issues is that, particularly for our board, and I'm assuming for a lot of others as well, is that even to get space for board members is going to be increasingly difficult in a post-pandemic world, when our host sites are usually hospitals and academic institutions who don't want to have such large groups together. So it's kind of, tying our hands behind our back when we're required to meet in person, but don't necessarily have the space to do that or the support to do that. So yeah.
I completely hear you, Kyle, and I promised many people that I wasn't going to be negative about this, so I'm not going to be, but I hear your concerns. We've echoed them. But I will also just say, as a respectful kind of counter to this, is that I do think that the idea that board members their votes can count virtually, even though that you still have to hit a quorum, but the idea that your vote, your presence, your participation can count virtually, that concept has never been accepted before, and now it is, which is, I think, an encouraging step, and something that I'm trying to give a lot of put a lot of hope in, that's there. And I will say that we've been kind of constantly talking to our state legislators on this. They have not closed the book on this, and know that that there still can be a lot of progress on this. So I anticipate that we're going to be continuing to talk to them about how we can tweak this or amend this in a way that would be just better and a better fit for community boards. And certainly when we talk to the city, we're also, kind of pushing this on the city side too.
Yeah, and just wanted to reiterate that CB6 is, we know the borough president is taking a lead on this, and Senator Hoylman and Assemblymember New as well. And we have been in support of all of that legislation. So we will continue to stand in support of the borough president in that work.
Great. Thanks, Kyle. And then we'll do Stephen and then Barry.
Yeah, so first, always applauding that you give us the power to do things, but as somebody who's been witnessing our in-person task force, I almost would wish you just tell us what to do, quite candidly, as the chair, because it's been the diverse opinions is incredible. And it's incredibly difficult to get consensus with many different sort of niches. So with that, what I would say is it would be very helpful if you were to slay or if you can coordinate and say, here are the 7 things you need to work out. Here are the 6 things, whatever they are. And I think I can't speak for other community boards, but for me to say, these are the 5 things you need to talk. We need to come to an agreement that we have the right to, and other ones saying these are mandated. There is an incredible gray line, particularly with every lawyer that's on my community board that thinks they can interpret the open meetings laws. And I want to just thank Adele, who's laughing, because she's been incredibly helpful. And I've been a part of multiple debates that every lawyer on my team thinks that they can interpret it differently. So giving us very structured, the more structured, I mean, candidly, again, I would rather you just tell me this is what you're going to do. But if you're not going to do that, then say, these are the 6 things that you need to vote on. And here is my suggested language, because it is incredibly difficult to get, I mean, community boards in general debate quite a bit, but I've just found this to be one of those issues that exacerbates even that. So that would be my request: direction, help, finite, and make sure that there's a fine line between this is not in debate. You have to do this. Here are the 6 things that you can talk about, because it's been a challenge through the thing. And again, I want to once again thank Adele, who was laughing when I spoke, because we were on some very funny calls over the last 6 months.
Sure. I would, Stephen, you and I are still getting to know each other, but you'll find me to be a very bossy person. I would love nothing more than to, I would love nothing more than to tell the boards what to do, but I don't think we have that ability. But I do understand like that piece. And I will just also offer, I've gone to community boards speaking on this issue in the past. So if it's helpful to have me come to a meeting and also do that, I'm more than happy to do this whole, here's a list of things that you have to decide or whatever, but I'm more than happy to also visit your community board specifically and talk to them too.
We'd love to coordinate that. But again, the delineation is, this is not up for debate, and this is what you have to do. And these are the things you can do. There seems to be a constant debate on those 2 groupings. So,
okay. Thanks. Yeah, Barry.
Trisha, you're welcome to come and try to boss CB9 around. I haven't figured out how to do it.
No, I don't. I offered CB7. That offer does not go to CB9.
Yeah, I don't. If you figure it out, let me know. But I was just going to say, I appreciate the frustrations that we all have about the lack of clarity, the difficulty in having an in-person quorum, and then us having to figure out who will be there in person to make the quorum and who gets the pass to participate virtually. But I do want to just acknowledge this is a big step forward. As it was said, we can now vote virtually and have those votes count if we have quorum in person. It is an improvement, and Albany is still in session. And so this is not the end or final word. This is what they managed to agree on at 3 a.m. when they were passing a budget that was really their priority, not this open meetings law amendment that we've all been begging for. And so I think that working with our state legislators and refining this is definitely something that we're looking forward to at CB9. And also, our March general board meeting was a hybrid meeting because we found out like 24 hours ahead of time that we could have had it virtually, and we had already set it up. And someone that we haven't seen at our meetings, that I've seen in the neighborhood and talked to, who is, very elderly, but who previously was a stalwart at every meeting reporting on the state of our state park, Riverbank State Park, walked in and she said, well, I'm glad you all are meeting again. And she knew that we were meeting virtually and she's like, I couldn't figure out Zoom. And I was like, I'll come back when they're back in person. So there are people out there who do need that in-person aspect of hybrid to come and participate in the process. And it is a complicated struggle that we haven't figured out on how to balance safety with that access. But I am looking forward, we're doing hybrid again this month. we're figuring it out as we go along. We're trying to stay within the laws while we do it. And Adele is going to wince, but like, until someone sues us, whatever we say stands. Yep, there's Adele wincing. That is not how law works, but it is how law works. And you're in compliance until someone points out that you're not, and then you're not. We're figuring it out. I have optimism. I think it would help to get the Manhattan delegation of state reps together and like talk about this. So maybe we could do that. I'm happy to kind of kick that off with a number of them that I know, and then we can pull in the ones that other people know that I don't.
Thanks, Barry. I am definitely not a bad idea. I've been advised to have a little patience while the dust settles a little bit and while everybody is digesting everything that's in the budget. But I certainly would welcome kind of a larger conversation. And then Tammy.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to second anytime that you'd like to come and slap CB1 around. Calm down. Certainly, I'd like to just sit back for that.
Oh, no, the power would go to my head. Go ahead.
Oh, it'd be awesome. So one of the things that we looked at the legislation was about the hearing. So, and the language in the budget for hybrid meetings is you have to host a public hearing. So we're going to host a public hearing this month as part of our full board meeting, so we can then next month change our bylaws and put it in and have it just be done in permanence going forward. I don't know if there's anything else that we need to do on that. I know it's a bylaw change and a resolution that we'll do after the public hearing. If there's anything else that you think or Adele would like to advise, please certainly let us know. But I figured I'd put it out there that that's our plan for CB1. Our full board meetings at the end of this month. We'll host the public hearing, and then in executive next month, which is May, do the resolution, the bylaw changes, and have it be embedded. So we're ready to go before June.
That's great. Thank you. I think it's great that you're putting in your bylaws. I don't know if it's laid out that you have to put it in your bylaws. Adele's shaking her head. So I think it's wonderful. And I will just note that I believe that if I'm remembering the legislation correctly, the language correctly, goes into effect in 60 days. So June 8th for the next 2 years. And then at the end of the 2 years, they're going to have some sort of panel or some sort of commission will then review lessons learned and kind of make recommendations on what to do afterwards. But thank you for that, Tammy, and I really look forward to listening in on that. That's great. Okay, folks, you all know at this point I've probably called you on my personal cell phone, or at least on my office line. You have my email address. You all have, the liaisons who are on this call, who are also very much in contact with you. We want you to think of us always as your resource and as your partner in all of this. We know just how difficult and, frustrating it's been over the last few years, just kind of going month to month. Use this next 60 days, both for a breather and to help get your boards ready for whatever comes next. And if we can be of any assistance whatsoever, please let us know. The last thing I'll just add is that, we have certainly not given up the fight, knowing that to do hybrid well also requires additional funding resources. Every single district manager, even the ones who are doing it well right now, have asked us for help and highlighted the very real financial toll that it's taken on your boards to do hybrid. So we recognize this very much and are continuing to fight in the city, but in the city budget. Mark submitted testimony to this effect, asking for community boards to have additional funding for staffing and for tech, and talking about even the venues that are available to them. So this is something that is ongoing, but we also very much know that whatever the state decides, we also need to make sure that the boards are funded appropriately on the city side. With that, then I realize that we're a little later on than normal, but we're going to go into our chair reports. Thank you all for your patience. And I also just want to give a shout out to Janine, who shared her events in the chat, which I love. So if you do have any events or things like that, would love for them to be put in the chat. And then it's April, so we'll go first to Jessica Chait and CB4.
Great. Thanks, Trisha. And thanks for having me here today, everyone. Stepping in for Jeffrey LaFrancois, who had a conflict. Our updates in no particular order are that CB4 has put out a curb usage survey so that we can better understand how folks feel about what we should do with the curb. There are a lot of demands to better organize, and we're looking to better understand community priorities for the space in both residential and business districts. And if anyone's interested in seeing that, we can circulate that survey. Or if you live or work in the district, we encourage you to fill it out. We also appreciate the recent meeting with Borough President Levine on the active ULURP applicant at the MTA site at 54th and 9th Avenue. We are continuing to push that the city respect the commitment to Hudson Yards rezoning and allow the site to be developed for 100% affordable housing for middle and moderate income units. This has been an ongoing, longstanding issue, and we appreciate the office's commitment and interest on this. In addition, we have Chelsea Piers. We are pushing to correct what we view as a historic wrong as the Hudson River Park Trust renegotiates its lease with Chelsea Piers. Many of you may know there's a wide access road in front of the pier that is dominated by the tenants of the pier and really should be redesigned to improve pedestrian safety and pier access. And so we are excited to work with our local elected officials to get Chelsea Piers to correct this as part of the renegotiation. And those are our primary things. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jessica, for being here. We'll go next to Vicki, CB5.
Hi again. I'm just going to go very quickly. Our full board meeting is tonight, so any of the things that we've dealt with this month have to be obviously voted on by the board. So CB5's Landmark Committee addressed 2 applications this month. One had to do with the exterior signage for the August Wilson Theater, and the other was regarding a request for an extension and an elevator for a building on West 26th Street. The Flatiron Partnership gave us a presentation on their seasonal open street plans for Broadway between 25th and 27th Streets. Our Parks and Transportation Committees met jointly to address the yearly roster of post-parade event permits for 2022. Oy vey. Union Square Partnership gave us a presentation on their streetscape and lighting master plan, which was great. And it was wholeheartedly supported by the committee. Our Liquor License Committee successfully addressed problems with an application for a new liquor license at 11 West 17th Street. And also the board is due tonight to ratify actions sent in an emergency, I'm sure you'll all identify with this, to the SLA regarding a 500-foot hearing that we found out at the last minute for a liquor license for a new 24-hour ground floor restaurant located at 200 West 54th. Our Budget, Education, and City Services Committee was given a very interesting presentation by the Midtown Community Court, and our CB5 fellow will be giving a report to the board tonight, which provides an overview of the services for the homeless currently available in our district. And lastly, of course, our Open Meetings Task Force will be back in full swing working on our questions, comments, guidelines regarding future hybrid meetings for action at the May full board meeting. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Vicki. We'll go to Kyle from CB6.
Yep. Very quick report. Most of it was actually about open meetings law, but just continuing to work on the Washington Irving High School. So really want to thank you, Trisha, for your leadership and support on that as we move forward on that. So yeah, thank you.
No problem. Thanks, Kyle. I think we have a meeting soon set up.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
We'll go to CB7.
Thank you. Three notes, continuing our emphasis on mental health here at CB7. Our HHS committee passed a very powerful resolution on suicide prevention and self-harm, and it had quite a bit of an emphasis on youth and groups such as the LGBTQ elder youth as well. So we could share that as well. But again, I wanted to bring up that we had sort of discussed trying to work something out at a borough level when the time was appropriate on mental health, and this would be something additive to that. Our public task force did end up following up and meeting with and discussing the governor's 10-point plan before the budget. And we actually had someone from the governor's office there. So we thought that was very fruitful, and we were sort of happy to see that some of those points came to fruition. It was generally supported, although we did not take a vote or take a formal position. And then the last one I'd bring up is just from a preservation perspective. We have a high profile situation going on. Our West Park Presbyterian Church, which is located 165 West 86, is trying to apply to remove their landmark designation, and that will be a very, very large issue for us, and one that is having an incredible amount of community outreach already. We're going to end up doing a hearing in the beginning of May regarding that. So for those preservationists and landmark people, that is going to be, I think, quite a conversation for us. That's my report. Thank you for a great meeting today.
Thanks, Stephen. We'll go to CB8. That's very interesting. I may tune into that one. That's great. Thanks.
Thank you. So we had a busy meeting last night. We passed a resolution in support of the Clean Slate Act. We passed a resolution asking that the Transportation Mobility Review Board that's implementing congestion pricing comply with the open meetings law. Passed a resolution in opposition to Intro 134, which would water down the salary transparency law that was passed to address gender pay disparities. And we also expressed our intention to weigh in on the open restaurants rules before DOT comes out with draft rules. So I know that that's something that a lot of other boards have been dealing with. So we're going to continue to work on that. Just want to let folks know about two upcoming events that we have. So Community Board 8 is part of the East Side Freedom Square Coalition in support of Ukraine, along with local elected officials. So that includes Borough President Levine and Congressmember Maloney, Senator Kruger, Assembly members Seawright and Court, Council members Menon and Powers, along with Howard Teach and New Democratic Dimensions, various other community groups, members of the Ukrainian community here in New York. So we've come together in this coalition to do what we can to support Ukraine, and we're going to be doing a vigil with faith leaders and the community, and it's open to everyone. So I encourage everybody to come out and join us. This is going to be Monday, April 18th at 5:30 p.m. in Carl Schurz Park. And again, hoping to have a strong turnout there to show our support for Ukraine in response to President Zelensky's call for global solidarity. And I'm actually just going to put some links in the chat here to the coalition Facebook group. And we are also trying to raise money for Ukraine through the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America. So I'm just put that link in as well. So I encourage you all to join us and support us there. And the last thing is I'll mention again, we have our art fair coming up June 11th, which is going to be on 91st Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenue and James Cagney Place. So we've done several art events now here at Community Board 8. They've been very successful. So encourage everybody to join. And if you have art that you would like to display, please let us know and submit it to us by May 6th. Thank you.
Thanks, Russell. We'll go to Barry Weinberg.
Hi, I will try to keep my update brief. We continue to work on advancing the Morningside Heights rezoning, in particular speaking with affected property owners about the possibility of committing to seek HPD financing for deeper and broader affordability in exchange for more density. And also transit upgrades to subway stations, as none of these stations on the one train north of 96th Street have elevator access before you get up to Inwood and Washington Heights. We also will be hearing from the Manhattan North Command this evening about efforts going on uptown in public safety and improving the community's relationship with the police. And additionally, we have been speaking to various folks at the city council and hopefully today, I believe in the mayor's office, about the tenant interim lease program. This is a program where the city of New York owns residential buildings that it foreclosed on and agreed to sell the buildings to the tenants after the tenants had proved that they are capable of running it as a tenants association that manages the building. Under the former mayor, these buildings were, we believe, illegally removed from the program and put into a different program called ANCP that instead of having the city repair the buildings and then turn them over, gave the buildings to third-party developers, which would borrow money to make the repairs. And then once the buildings were turned over to the tenants to become co-op shareholders, the building would carry that debt, which would result in maintenance charges of $2,000 to $3,000 a month, which is not affordable. And so we have advocated every year in the city budget process that the Till buildings simply finish going through Till and become co-ops that way with no debt. We met with some city council folks in advance of this budget to further emphasize that to the new crop of council members. And we'll be speaking to the mayor's office, urging them to reverse the de Blasio era policy of removing buildings from Till and putting them into ANCP. So, and that's been done in conjunction with the Till Coalition. CB9, I think, still has the highest concentration of Till buildings, and as a result, the highest concentration of former Till buildings that are HDFCs.
Thanks, Barry. I think you are right on that. Thank you for that. Then we'll go to CB10.
Good morning, everyone. Some really quick things. CB10 was selected to participate in a community initiative, which was put together by the 125th Street bid. Several, at least over 15 city agencies, which included the deputy mayor, Banks was there, also deputy borough president, Keisha Sutton was there to discuss the issues of what was going on 125th Street, how it affected the businesses there, how it affects the public, the community, and most importantly, what the agencies are going to do about it as a collective. It's not just an NYPD, it's not just an arrest and enforce initiative, but it's a community involvement, it's an agency involvement, it's an everyone, all hands on deck involvement. So we had that meeting. There were a lot of encouraging things that came from that meeting. And CB10 is going to work with 125th Street bid and hopefully the other CBs, and how we as a community have a community response that is incorporating the agency response and NYPD, but most importantly, focusing on the people, the constituents, and how to move forward in a very safe manner that everyone is on board for and all the voices are being heard. So that was one of the exciting highlights that CB10 was able to participate in last week. We do have a forum coming up, a cannabis forum. I saw Janine put hers in. I'm on my phone, so I can't really type it in there, but we have a forum coming up April 23rd. We are utilizing one of our open streets in Harlem, so it'll be a hybrid. It's going to be on 120th between Malcolm X and Mount Morris Park West. We are co-sponsoring this event with CB9, CB11. Thank you all for jumping in there. Manhattan Borough President's Office always supporting us. CUNY, NAACP, Marcus Meets Malcolm's. We have a really great agenda for this forum. We have Tremaine Wright speaking. We have panels on equity and what does it look like in Harlem and disadvantaged communities. On that panel, there'll be past DAs, current DAs speaking, as well as how to get a cannabis license. So all of those things will be covered. It's from 12 to 3 p.m. So hopefully folks will be able to come out, and I'll be able to send out the flyer to everyone. And also, finally, we are participating in Jackie Robinson Day, which is April 15th. From 2 to 9:30 p.m. in Jackie Robinson Park, which is off 145th Street. Everyone is welcome to come out. There'll be a screening of 42. There'll be music by DJ Stormin Norman. So we're excited to celebrate with the family. His granddaughter and daughter will be there. So we're excited that Parks is putting that together. That's all for CB10.
Sounds great. Thanks, Cecily. Looking forward to the cannabis event. We'll go to CB11.
Good morning, all. Thank you so much. Finally getting through my first cup of coffee, so appreciate the patience. And we're all in it together. So CB11 been very busy, where we had to consolidate all of our meetings into the first 2 weeks because we were not sure what the extension would yield, especially the budget process. So we're going to have our executive committee meeting tomorrow. But we were very pleased to see what occurred in Albany, and as we wade our way through the muck, as it were, legislatively, and as it is analyzed. We had, and again, I mentioned this in the past, earlier this morning, we had a call for an extension of moratorium with methadone clinics and all services. It came to our attention that there may be an expansion over at the NIRE site. We're waiting for clarification on that. It's affecting the quality of life over at AK Houses, 1775 and MS Houses. I was invited for a walkthrough. I'm happy to report that a lot of their internal issues were rectified when it came to mold, water infiltration, et cetera, and so on. I've met with the owner and property manager, Joseph Tall. He was very amenable, and I've had a successful report back on those issues that were identified. The other component, though, that we are trying to collaborate with our council members and the 25th precinct are issues such as drug dealing, trespassing. We had a meeting with council member, Deputy Speaker Ayala with the 125th Street Task Force, where DI Hennings was there, and we addressed a lot of those concerns because there are conditions where people will get into those buildings, whether they are for drug transactions or they are homeless, and they'll decline DHS service offers, and then they'll refuse to leave. So there's been a lot of that back and forth. There've been shootings on that block, and there are a lot of concerns there. So it's an ongoing conversation. And we're hoping to have some return to safety in those surrounding blocks. We had our meeting with Friends of La Marqueta. It was very productive. We on dealing with the ongoing seeding of businesses in that area, and we'd like to see an expansion down the line. Quick shout out. I love Jessica Elliott. She does an awesome job making Francis Mistura proud for Environment, Open Space, and Parks. If you don't know who Francis is, then you've not been on the community board long enough. We have our Earth Day conference April 22nd over at the Museum of City of New York. 9:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. If you know anyone who resides in our district that's not a board member, there's a $50 gift card that if you participate in the event being sponsored by a separate entity, but so that people can actually be engaged, and you get to fill out a survey with our district needs survey, so we can get a better quantification of what we need in the community. So again, that's for people who live within CB11. Very excited to see that come to fruition. Last bit is we have our Second Avenue Subway Task Force convening soon, and our Cannabis Task Force that will be convening, as well as we identify ways to uplift our community that was historically disenfranchised with the war on drugs, but also doing it in a healthy and safe way, which is why I was glad that Cicely, thank you very much for making that announcement on our co-sponsorship. We're looking forward to seeing this come to bear soon. So that's it. Any questions, please? Hope to see you in the coming weeks and months to come and pay us a visit, and please, more than willing to come down to your districts.
Great. Thanks, Xavier. I don't think we have anybody from CB12, so we'll go to CB1.
Hi, thank you so much. Sorry, I wasn't ready. I was taking notes there. All right, I've covered a lot of the stuff already, so I will be fairly short today. One, I really want to ask for the borough president's support. We used to have a neighborhood advisory committee for and about the borough-based jails, and specifically the Manhattan Detention Center. There's been absolutely no movement on community engagement on that in terms of what's happening from that advisory group since mid-2021. So we'd really like an update to understand what's going to happen with the NAC. Can we have it be restarted? Will this current administration be working with the community along those lines? Which then drags me forward into, I really appreciate that the PDC had pushed the city and others back to come through the community board process. And we really would like the borough president's help to ensure that any of the city agencies who are going to PDC, or any applicant that goes to PDC, before it gets on the agendas for PDC, have to come through the community board as required by city charter. And to come and work with the community boards on the community board process and time. I mean, we are a respectful city agency. We just would like the same kind of due diligence that everybody else gets along the process, and really not come to me 24 hours before a full board meeting to ask, well, can't you figure out some way to do a resolution on this? Because we are already on the agenda for PDC. That deprives the public of their opportunity for engagement, is disrespectful for the city agency, and we are, after all, a city agency. So I really look forward to help with that. We are looking to have a meeting with CB 2 and 3 based on the open restaurants new ruling that came out from the court, because what we're going to try and do is find commonalities for our council member to really try and have a very thoughtful look forward on this, to see where, at least for all of us, and hopefully we'll be meeting at the end of this month for that. And then we'd like support for Intro 2150-2020, which was on from the last session, which is a local law that would create a civilian complaint review board for traffic infraction. And so what we're specifically hoping is that it will help with the placards and the double parkers. We, as you well know, all over Lower Manhattan with all of the offices, we have an unbelievable amount of placards who do not park legally. The police will not police the police or the other city agencies. So we believe that this introduction for a change in the local law could be a boon and be able to create just some simple levels of enforcement. We absolutely would love to see the resolution that Russell did from the congestion pricing panel for CB8. So please, Russell, send that to us, because yes, open meeting laws are super important. And we would really love to hear what's going on and know if the community's concerns are being discussed at all relevantly and communicatively. And with that, I close my report. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Tammy. I'm going to follow up with you on a couple of those items after this, or we'll ask Andrew to follow up with you too on some of these ones that you have requested on. And then sorry.
Thank you and happy holidays to all.
Thanks, you too. Last but not least, Janine from CB2.
Hi, good morning. Wanted to really touch on three broad issues. First is just the public safety. I do want to thank our police and schools and city officials for doing their best to make our community feel safer. But this month, going to our full board will be a resolution passed by our Human Services Committee requesting additional funding to Greenwich House. They've been coordinating outreach in Washington Square Park, along with, started with the last borough president, and then we know it's continuing. But and last week, or actually this week, New York City Parks shared that they're closing the northwest corner of Washington Square Park, which is, pretty much filled with many people using and selling drugs. We're not sure. There needs to be additional funding for outreach, because they're going to close that part and they're just going to either move outside the park or elsewhere in the park. It's like water. While closing it might be a reset, if without any additional services, the problem is not going to go away. The 6th and 1st precinct, as Tammy knows, are still working on trying to track down the sexual assault that happened on Pier 40 to a morning jogger. And what happened I want to say thanks to Zach DeHaan. I hope he gets his $50,000 reward. And just a reminder that it takes a village. Our most recent CB2 Chair Carter Booth happened to be in the East Village yesterday and recorded Zach recounting what happened. I'll put a link in the chat to that YouTube video. So keep your cameras with you. You never know what's going to happen. Last month, we heard an outpouring of opposition, fear, and concern from our community in Chinatown and Little Italy. CB2 received more than 3,600 postcards and petitions and more than 25 letters in opposition to a shelter on 231 Grand Street and Bowery, basically on the edge of the CB2 border. We heard an additional 4 hours of testimony at our March board meeting from a community that feels very unheard, lives in fear, and is divided between 3 community boards downtown. So from your office's perspective, we definitely need more translation services and more help. All of those people who testified were English speakers. So that's just a segment of the population. And I think I already put in the chat, we have our downtown cannabis meeting sponsored by the Borough President's Office. It's going to be in person, and we're working on a Zoom option at the Sheen Center on Lafayette and Elizabeth Street. So if you live down, and it's going to be co-hosted by CBs 1, 3, and 4. So thank you, everyone.
Great. Thanks, Janine. Forgive me all, and I think Paul is no longer on the call. He had to go to a work thing. I forgot to mention when giving some updates from our office that, and I've spoken, I believe, to all of you about this. I forgot to mention that we are going to be coming out with a code of conduct policy for board members, just more like a conduct expectations. I have I think run this language by all of you, but and generally don't like to read to folks, but we'll just go ahead and do the first portion of it. On the boards when we're thinking about appointments, and as we're still working through our appointment process as quickly and efficiently as possible, we do understand that there have been a lot of times that a board member's behavior is maybe not rises to the level of an EEO violation, but can also be highly disruptive and problematic on the board. It creates for a less functional board. It can create barriers for members of the public to feel like they're included or that they want to be involved in this, and can just in general create a space that's not really productive. And so in kind of our individual conversations with literally every single board, we've tried to craft something that that really lays out a little bit clearer what we expect of board members, and plan on sharing it with board members as we do the appointments. And then we'll also, once we do the appointments, share it with all the folks who weren't appointed this year, but will be up for appointment next year. If you don't mind just one moment while I pull up what we've drafted. I just wanted to, and again, it's not really different from what I've already shared with many of you before, but I wanted to give you a heads up that this is something that we've continued to work on, and I expect to be up soon. Okay, so just very briefly, the Office of the Manhattan Borough President is committed to ensuring that all public meetings in which people gather to perform the business of local government are conducted with the highest levels of cordiality, professionalism, and respect. This is especially true of community boards, where such conduct is critical for efficient and productive deliberations. The MBPO will work to ensure such standards are adhered to. The extent to which board members live up to these goals will be considered in the reappointment process. Following this, then we're going to go into a little bit more specifics about expectations for attendance, expectations that all board members are expected to abide by the EEO policies and sexual harassment prevention policies. Expectations for that board members are expected to conduct themselves professionally on the board and act respectfully towards all individuals. That they should also alert their board office as well as us about any eligibility changes in their membership. So if they move or are hired by an elected official and are therefore ineligible to continue on the board, we would ask that they notify us about that and promptly, and then that they abide, of course, by the New York City's conflicts of interest law and all relevant guidance from COIB. So I have to tell you, I haven't heard any opposition to this in speaking to all of you. And in general, I think that everybody's pretty happy about having a little bit more clear guidance, as Stephen had asked for in the past, about kind of clear standards. Certainly, you know that if anything does rise to the level of EEO, that is something that we take very seriously and want to get to the right person and get the right forms filled out kind of immediately. But for all things that are just very disruptive, but maybe not to that level, we hope that this will give you all another tool in your tool chest to help run productive meetings and and help, really create a respectful and professional environment for your board meetings. Yeah, Stephen.
I just want to applaud this move and just cannot emphasize enough my passion for holding accountability to community board members. This has been a prolific issue here at Community Board 7. We had an incident this week with a community board member and a member from a department of the city. So it's when we can get guidance from you, it's not us big brother coming down on people. And I think that I would continue this and encourage you over what I think will be the next 8 years to continue to hold people for the standards. And I think it's been a huge blind spot for the way community boards have been run. And I think people have to be accountable for their behavior and for their work. And I would just, again, applaud, encourage you to be as aggressive as possible to make our community boards high quality, respectful people. I've just seen the tone match Washington over the last 5 years. And I remember when I came in about 8 years ago, the meetings were drastically different in tone. And when you have that tone, the quality of the debate and the quality of what we do for the community goes down tremendously. And the community does not want to hear it. I get emails from the community, an incredible amount regarding what they find to be disappointing. And I need help to raise up the attitude, to raise up the standards of community board members from you guys. I can't speak for the other borough presidents, but I mean, other community board chairs. But again, I just want to applaud this and encourage you to do more, if possible, in this area.
Thanks. Xavier, then Tammy.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I echo a lot of the same points. And in an earlier meeting, we'd mentioned, and this is back last year when Nilsa was our chair, and she was not able to attend that meeting. I expressed the analogy because I train in martial arts and judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and how Marcelo Garcia talked about even when you leave from training, you're still a representative. You still wear that hat, even though you're not wearing that hat at that moment. And many of us wear multiple hats in our roles of service and our roles in work, and that it's oftentimes, even though we may not be acting as a board member in that particular moment, people will still have the optics of us and how we conduct our affairs. And I said, and it was a very contentious meeting because some people felt, well, I have the right to do this. And I said, it was often one of my early mentors once said to me, you have the right to disagree, but you don't have the right to be disagreeable in the moment. And it was that kind of context of saying, listen, we still comport ourselves with civility, but I'm very glad to hear this coming from the BP's office, because again, it's not a big brother. It's not us acting in what could be perceived as a dictatorial fashion, but it is conduct. But it's more in how we comport ourselves with some sense and sensibility of class and dignity as we advocate. And I think the community sees that at large. So again, thank you very much for that. And I think it will help elevate our conversations as representatives of our community districts. So thank you.
Great, thanks. And then Tammy.
So I couldn't echo what Stephen and Xavier said well enough. One of the things I wondered as to whether or not in the community board leadership training that the borough president's office does, whether there could be conflict resolution, behavior modeling.
Right.
We did that in Community Board 1 right as the pandemic hit in 2020. So it was a really interesting because it allowed people opportunities to think of and work as a group for alternative language. And the idea that I think people forget, we vote by majority does not mean it's necessarily consensus, and that people should not be skewered for alternate opinions that don't agree with where it's going. And that is what a community is about. It's a diversity of opinions and a diversity of people, and not when it gets to 100% agreement, that's extraordinarily powerful, but it doesn't always have to be. And that just because if your position is not the majority position, being sour on that doesn't help the work that we do as a community. And some ideas may not be ripe today, it could be ripe in 10 years, right? It's just about how it works in time. And learning how to have better dialogue is a training thing that I think perhaps not only the Manhattan Borough could do, but like citywide, that should be part of a training series when people come on. That is just one person's opinion. And I appreciate all the support and look forward to the guidelines. So thank you.
Great, thank you. We are, I took a note about the leadership training. We are planning those. We're frankly a few months off from that, just trying to get through the appointment process. And then my brain is going straight to those leadership training series. So your recommendation is well received. And certainly I will, certainly look to you all to give me more thoughts and input into what you'd like to see for those leadership trainings. We are, it's coming. Okay, guys, thank you for that. And thank you for your feedback. Like I said, I expect it to be polished, and then certainly when we send out our appointment letters, but we'll be letting everybody know about it, I believe in the coming weeks, but wanted to make sure you all heard it first. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Great. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you all so much. Thanks for the longer meeting. Have a great day. Stay
You
safe.
too. Bye.
Take care, everyone.